Hi guys, just got a couple outboards here. We got the Nevernood and we got a Johnson. This is a 15 horse, this is a 25 horse. This one needs a water pump, so we'll get started on that today. Okay, so just before we get started, we'll remove this cover and pull these plug wires off. We don't want this thing to fire up at all when we're going. Just a note too to the owner that this plug was extremely loose. I've since tightened it, but it was almost out, so something to watch in the future. So the first thing I need to do is undo these 6 bolts. There's 3 on this side and 3 on this side. I have a shifter linkage coming down through here. It's in neutral now, and you will see it once we get this cover off here. Get them all loosened off. Okay, so with my 6 bolts out now, I'm just going to wiggle this loose. There's a shifter cable in here that we have to disconnect yet. And I like to keep this machine in neutral. And that puts the shifter vertically in the middle of its travel. So we'll just pull it out and we'll reveal that connection. There we go. Trying to give you the best look at that as I can give you. It's just a flat or slot screwdriver that goes in there. Okay, so we've got the screw out for the shifter linkage. Let me just pull this straight out now. There's your shaft. And that's it. So we have the lower end down there with this drive shaft sticking out. And I'll just show you up underneath here the motor. Here your drive shaft goes. That's your water exhaust. Pretty straightforward. There's your shifter linkage. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take these 4 bolts off and we'll remove the water pump housing. Putting your lower end on a little workmate tabletop here is great. You can open it up. You can open up the jaws and close it underneath the cavitation plate. Holds the lower ends really well. Okay, so the 4 bolts are out. We'll go ahead. I'm just holding this shaft down with my hand and I'm lifting up on this whole assembly here. Now first of all, you'll see the way that these vanes are bent. Keep in mind that the motor always turns clockwise. So that will give you a good a way to remember how these vanes need to go inside the casing. Pull out the impeller. This impeller has a little way there, a little key way, and the little key is just like a round piece of metal dowel. It just sits in there. So I'll make sure all these parts are cleaned and make sure there's no issues with any, not too much wear. And we'll go ahead and put it back together. Okay, so I've cleaned up these plates here, and I'll just put this back in place. First one, here's the casing, nice and clean. I'm going to put just a very thin layer of grease on there, extremely thin. You don't want grease plugging up the cooling system, but I don't want this to run completely dry either until the water can get up to it. So just a very fine film of grease. Here's the impeller we're putting in. Okay, so I put the impeller back in. Remember, this turns clockwise, so you just have to concentrate a little bit and try to make sure it's in the right way. And then what we'll do is there's a little flat spot on the back. I've aligned this up at 12 o'clock, little keyway. And we'll put the roll pin on there, and we'll put this impeller down on top of it. We should be good to go. So we have our little key there. That will have to go in this slot right there. Put it down over the shaft. That's it. Put our 4 bolts in. So now we can put our 4 bolts back in. We have our 2 long ones at the back here. 2 short ones at the front. Just go ahead and tighten them up in a nice even crisscross pattern. You don't have to be that tight either. Just make sure they're snug. Not going to come undone. the impeller back in the housing. While we're here too, I just want you to see this again. This is that shift linkage union. You see what I'm talking about there? So we come in the side with a slot screwdriver. So earlier I'd put these 6 bolts back in just so we wouldn't lose them, so I'll take them back out. One thing I just want to let you know too is I made sure that this circuit was open with this tube. I just blew air into it and water and it actually came out here, so that's just to verify that that was clear. Okay, so I've undone the screw that is for our shift linkage, and now we just have to make sure that this shaft goes all the way up, sits into place, and that the water tube sits inside this rubber boot. We're just finishing up with these now. This went together fairly good. Okay, all 6 are tight. Okay guys, well that's about it for the water pump. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.